Okay, we are going to today talk about lesson 2.7, parallel lines and transversals. So a few definitions. If you're just so excited and want to do more proofs, today we're not going to do some proofs. I know that saddens you, but we'll get to that tomorrow. So today we're just going to learn about special line segment called a transversal. This right here is a transversal where it cuts two or more lines, okay? And we're going to call it T. Once you cut two or more lines, you're called a transversal. And what you create are certain angles, okay? First thing I want you to know that if this is our transversal T, and I'm going to highlight that in blue. Sometimes it's good practice to highlight your transversal. The exterior angles are the ones that are on the outside. Those are your exterior angles. So we would say angle 1, angle 2, angle 7, and angle 8 are the exterior angles, angles on the outside. Okay? Then interior angles, obviously those would be on the inside within this region. So that would be angle 3, 4, angle 5, and angle 6. Those are your interior angles. Then we have something called consecutive interior. Consecutive. So this is where knowing words helps you out. If you're consecutive interior, my teacher used to help me out and remind me that it would look like they would make a U shape or a sideways U, but consecutive interior are these two right here. Consecutive on the interior. So 4 and 6. And then the other pair would be the other direction, 3 and 5. Okay, so exterior on the exterior outside, interior on the interior inside, consecutive interior, consecutive interiors. Now we're going to talk about that same picture. Again, if you want to redraw it, you can just use the same one. I'm going to re-highlight my transversal here because that will always help you out. Now I want alternating exterior angles. Remember, exterior are the ones on the outside, the exterior. So it can only be 1, 2, 7, and 8. But I want them to alternate. So alternating would be the 1 with the 8. They're alternating across the transversal, but they're on the exterior side. So angle 1 and angle 8. Where would the other alternating exterior angle pair be? That would be 2 and 7. 2 and 7. All right, so if that's what alternating exterior is, what do you think alternating on the interior is? And again, my teacher would remind me, I had a teacher, she would say it makes an X. So that's how alternating exterior, but then alternating interior kind of is the same. It still makes an X. 3 to 6. And then 4 to 5. Because they have to be interior and they have to alternate, switch back and forth across the transversal. All right, and the last one is corresponding angles. Now, don't get it confused with the consecutive interior from up here. Consecutive interior makes that C shape to me, but corresponding makes this F shape. And let me use my highlighter here. To me, it makes this F shape, and I'll show you what I mean. So corresponding would be the 2, the transversal, and the 6. the 2 and the 6. Angle 2 and angle 6. So on the part above the F, that angle and that angle right there, and then actually the ones underneath it, the 4 would correspond with the 8. 4 and 8 also make the F. So meaning I could go like this. 4, 8. And then obviously mirror that, flip that over. So angle 1 would correspond with angle 5. And angle 3 would correspond with angle 7. Okay? Looks strange, but again, the more you do this, much easier it'll be. All right, so now I've given you a picture. I kind of messed it up here. I do it on purpose. I want you to circle in green one pair of corresponding. I'm going to circle one pair. You have to circle one pair in your notes. So I want 2 of them in your notes. One of them will be from me. The other one will be from you. Okay, so let's circle corresponding. So corresponding, remember, is that F shape, an F shape. So again, there's several here. It depends on what you want to make your transversal. I'm going to make my transversal M. So if M is my transversal and I'm looking for that F shape, I'm going to kind of go like this and this, the 8 and the 12. Those are corresponding. All right, and again, several other options you could have chosen, done the flip of it. You could have made this your transversal. Try to find a bunch of different pairs. You want to practice this, okay? Circle in orange one pair of alternating across the transversal interiors on the inside, shaded on the inside. So again, if this is my transversal, all of my interiors would be between them. And I want to alternate on the inside. So 10 would alternate with 12. And then obviously there's another pair. And you write that down. Circle in purple one pair of alternating exterior. Okay, so they would be on the outside of that yellow section. So I'm going to pick in purple 1 to go with 9, alternating. And then obviously you pick the other one. And then circle in blue one pair of consecutive, that's the C shape, sideways C like that usually. Consecutive interior, 2 and 12. All right. Now, with that said, let's talk about parallel lines and what happens when we cut a transversal on them. It actually is really cool. So parallel lines are lines in the same plane that do not intersect. They're never, ever, ever going to intersect. Lines in the same plane that do not intersect. So the way we write it, we would say line AB is parallel to line CD. And they actually draw these like arrows just to show you that they're parallel. Look for those red arrows. That means that my transversal would be line AC is the transversal. It's cutting 2 or more lines. Now, something special about lines that are not all in the same plane. So here you have a box. And again, you can pause this if you need to. we have what are called skew lines. Skew lines are two lines. Two lines are skew if they do not intersect and they're not on the same plane. Sorry about that. Two lines are skew if they do not intersect and they're not in the same plane. So if I asked you to find a line that is skew to AB, here's AB. What I usually look for is I don't want to pick any line that's on this plane right here. Okay? So just to highlight that for you, I don't want to pick any line up in here, up on that plane. So I'm going to pick something down here. And what I usually like to pick, I don't even want it going the same direction. So I wouldn't pick TK because, to be honest with you, that's on the same plane. Look. I would want it going a completely different direction and on this plane. So TH would work. See how TH is going a different way, totally on a different plane than AB? Could you have picked another one? Could you have picked CG? Yes, totally on a different plane. So that's what we want. Going in opposite directions, totally different directions, different plane. Those are called skew lines. Now, let's go back to this idea of parallel lines and a transversal because something special occurs. And all of these are properties and definitions that's going to help us with our proofs tomorrow. Woohoo! What happens when we have two parallel lines and we cut them by a transversal is amazing. And this is all over the SATs, the ACTs, guys. This is the big stuff they like to ask. When two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, so here's my transversal T, the corresponding angles become congruent. Now again, which ones are the corresponding angles up here? Remember, corresponding angles make that F shape. So I've actually turned this sideways. Remember, look right here. I might highlight my transversal. Try to find that F shape. So 1 and 3. 1 is congruent to angle 3. All the corresponding angles are congruent. What else is congruent? 2 congruent to 4. What else is congruent? 8 and 6. And 7 and 5. All the corresponding angles are congruent. What? Amazing. Another thing that happens is all of the alternating interior angles are also congruent. Alternating on the interior. So here's 2. What would be alternating on the interior with 2? Here's my transversal. 2 and 6. What else is alternating on the interior? Oh yeah. 3 and 7. Not only that, the alternating exteriors are congruent. Alternating exterior angles are congruent. So let's look for those. What would those be? That would be 1 exterior with 5. And then obviously 4 and 8. And the last thing, the consecutive interiors, the ones that make that C shape. Actually, this is making a U shape because it's upside down. But the consecutive interior angles are supplementary, meaning they add up to 180. They're not equal. They're adding up to 7 and 6 are supplementary. Likewise, are 2 and 3. But here's what's so cool about parallel lines cut by transversal. And I call it this big, small rule. Pretty much all the big angles are congruent to each other. And all the small angles are congruent to each other. And that's basic idea. So if they say to me, oh, the measure of angle 7 is 100 degrees. So if I put 100 right there, well, then this is an obtuse angle, right? So then that's an obtuse angle. That'd be 100. That'd be 100. That'd be 100. All the big angles are 100. Well, then what's all the small angles? Well, they're supplementary. So it must be 80, 80, 80, and 80. All the small angles are 80. It's really, really easy when they're parallel. Sometimes you'll have like a third line here. Then all the big angles are congruent to each other and all the small angles are congruent to each other. Super, super, super cool. All right, last and final thing. Let's then use this information to find X and Y. And I've got 3 pictures here. We're going to do these together, and that'll be it. And again, this is really big idea on SATs, guys, or ACTs. They love this stuff. Look for this, okay? So I need to find X and Y. If I'm looking at it, these are parallel. Here's my transversal. Looks like they're alternating, so I know they're equal to each other. But they didn't give me a degree, but they gave me a degree here is 55. So I know, again, all the small angles are 55 and all the large angles must be supplementary. So these two must make 180. So X must be 125 degrees. And since these two are alternating on the interior, X must be 125 and Y is also 125. Easy peasy. Let's try this one. Find X and Y. All right, so again, these two are making a linear pair. I know they're supplementary. These two, what do I know about these two? And what do I know about these two? So I'm looking at it like this. This is an exterior. Again, this is my transversal. This is an exterior. They're alternating exterior. So I would say that they are equal. So X minus 10 equals 104. So X must be what? 114. So if this is 114 degrees, and this is the big angle, this is surprisingly enough the smaller angle, and it's supplementary, it's making a line, so it must be 66. Right? Because 66 and 114 make 180. All right, and one more. Now they've tried to trick you here, and they made what looks like a shape, but this will come into play in a couple chapters, so that's why we want to do it now. So they said this line and this line are parallel. What I would normally do then is I would actually extend that line so I can make it look like what I've been doing all day. So now I've got 2 parallel lines. I have a transversal here, and I have a transversal over here. So let's see what kind of angles I have in my transversal. So again, if I highlight this transversal right here, the 2x and the 108 are alternating interiors, so they must be equal. So x is 54. So now, what about these two right here? What if this was my transversal? What kind of angles do I have here? Well, they're on the inside of the parallel interior. They're not flip-flopping. They're on the same side. They're consecutive. They're on the same side. They used to be called same side interior. That's how I used to know it. But consecutives are supplementary. So 5y plus the 120 make 180. So y is 12. All right, practice that tonight. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye-bye.